Is to go through the male reproductive system diagram, which can be found on page 298 in your notebook and also posted on Classroom. It's important to note that the male reproductive system has both endocrine and exocrine functions. So let's start down here at the bottom. This round structure right here is a testis, and testis is singular because we only see one in a side view. From a front view, you'd be able to see typically two. Um, so plural would be testes, or they're also sometimes referred to as a testicle. The exocrine function of the testicle is to produce the sperm. And of course, the exocrine system is going to put something into a set of tubing. So we can see here this orange tube is where the sperm is going to end up. It's going to come upward. It's going to go over top of the urinary bladder and then come down here to join with another set of tubing. So we're going to come back to that. The endocrine function, of course, is the production of testosterone and all of the other androgens that we discussed during the endocrine system. And of course, endocrine puts that hormone directly into the blood. So starting here at the testis, internally, you're going to learn through this unit that there's a set of structures called seminiferous tubules. Those produce the sperm. Once it's produced, they end up in a storage area on top of the testicle here, and that is called the epididymis. The epididymis is actually a set of coiled up tubing as well. If you were able to stretch it out, it would be about 20 feet long. From here, once the sperm come to maturity, they are propelled by peristalsis. They're really not swimming yet, and they move through this tube. So the body is pushing them through it. So right here, we can see the line marking that tube. That is the vas deferens, also often referred to as the ductus deferens. This is the tube that gets cut in a vasectomy. So remember, tomy means to cut, like anatomy, to cut apart. If this tube is cut, then sperm can still be produced, but the sperm can't get past that point, and so they cannot then come out. So we'll come back to that. So vas deferens, it's traveling upward over the bladder, comes down, and then right here we see in red there are 3 glands that we're going to be adding in. But right here is where those glands are going to contribute fluid. So right now we're only looking at the gametes or sex cells, the sperm cells themselves. At this point they're going to mix with a fluid, and that will then be referred to as semen. So right here, this is called the ejaculatory duct. So as the sperm and the fluid mix here, and the ejaculatory duct is going to send it out, it goes into now joining with this blue tube. So this is the urinary bladder from above, which we learned in the urinary and excretory system. The kidneys filter the blood, produce the urine. The ureters bring it to the bladder. From the bladder, it goes through the urethra. So this blue tube here, coming all the way down, which we're going to mark right here now, is the urethra. So the urethra serves 2 purposes. One is to eliminate urine from the body through the urethra, right through the penis, and then out through the tip. And then for sperm to be mixed with fluids to become semen, and that also leads to the urethra. So the urethra in males has a excretory and reproductive function. In women, it is 2 separate sets of tubing, the urethra for urinating, and then the vagina for reproduction. So we'll come back to that later in this unit. Now, just kind of getting our bearings on a couple of things that's already labeled for us. We have the urinary bladder here. We have the pubic bone here to the front. So they've removed the hip bones, so you can't see them, but this is where they would join in the front. And then to the back here, this is the rectum. So in other words, the end of the large intestine before it leaves the body through the anus. Kind of scrolling up for a minute, these little half-cut things here then would be part of the small intestine. And then we can see the spine coming down, and this little area here is the tailbone. So coming back to these structures, looking at the penis itself, we have an area here labeled in yellow and an area here labeled in red. So the first one here in red is going to be the corpus spongiosum, and then beneath it is the corpus cavernosum. And so I'll give you a moment to get those written in. Corpus refers to body. Spongiosum refers to sort of spongy, right? Cavernosum, see that word cavern in there, like a large cavity or a large space. These are both a type of erectile tissue. So this is what's going to engorge with blood to allow the penis to become erect for intercourse. They serve a little bit different purposes. The cavernosum, when it fills with blood, is what allows the penis to become rigid. The problem would be that that pressure could collapse the urethra, and then the fluid that's supposed to be get out of it wouldn't be able to. So what happens now is the spongiosum, while it allows it to become firm, keeps this tubing open. Coming down to the end, this structure right here is basically the tip of the penis that is called the glans penis. And then covering it, there is a set of folds of skin, and that is called the prepuce. In layman's terms, that might be called the foreskin, and that is what is sometimes removed during a male circumcision. And that is not an essential procedure. It is something that is determined by the families and the doctors at time of birth. Now we have the testis here. The skin folds that enclose the testicles are the scrotum. And that scrotum can expand and contract, and there's muscles associated with it, to allow it to pull the testis up close to the body to warm it, or to allow it to pull away from the body to try to get it away from that core of body heat to cool it. The sperm need a specific temperature that they're best produced at. So if it's getting too cold, it tries to warm it. If it's getting too hot, it tries to cool it. It's just part of a negative feedback mechanism the body has. So now we come back, we see the only thing we have not labeled are the glands. So starting down here, this little one here is called the bulbourethral gland. And so the bulbourethral gland also used to be called the Cowper's gland. You might see that term sometimes also. It produces, one of its functions is it produces the first set of secretions that then goes through the urethra and cleanses it in preparation for the sperm to come out next, because previously urine may have been in there. So this is a cleansing fluid, does some other things as well. But it's the first secretion that comes out of the penis prior to any other fluids. So then working our way backwards here, this is the seminal vesicles. And the seminal vesicles produce 60% of the volume of the sperm. They're responsible for producing some of the nutrients that the sperm may need. While the sperm can swim, they don't have a lot of storage to keep themselves working. And then finally, this large one here in the middle, and we can see it surrounds the urethra a little bit here, is the prostate gland. It is one of the reasons that someone with prostate cancer may have trouble urinating if this enlarges, because it could be pushing on that. There's a lot of other things that we are going to cover about this, but those are the structures. I would recommend learning those first, get them labeled, and then we'll cover the rest in the notes.